What is the biggest mistake IUL agents make when selling an IUL policy to their clients? In this educational episode, I'm going to address the question, why isn't your IUL performing as well as it should? If you are wondering that and you own an IUL and you're going, golly, this isn't performing as well as I thought, get ready. I'm going to show you the reason why. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist now and a retirement planning specialist for nearly 5 decades. And I've been helping thousands of people in America optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower their authentic wealth. But also, I love to help them eliminate the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility when they retire. Those 3 dangers cause most people to outlive their money. Now, one of the best financial vehicles that eliminates those dangers, and especially during your golden years, is a max-funded indexed universal life insurance contract, but it must be structured correctly. It must be funded properly, and it will knock the socks off of most people's IRAs and 401ks and other types of financial instruments. And I can prove that to you all day long, but a lot of people that watch my educational videos on this channel, or they read my books, I've written 12 books on this, they go seek out their brother-in-law or their nephew maybe, who has an insurance license, and can you help me set this up? And they do it. And then they come maybe 5, 7 years later, or they hear me on the radio or on YouTube where I talk about, oh, well, in the last 7.5 years, your money in your IUL should have doubled, okay? If you had $500,000 7.5 years ago, you should have at least $1 million today. And they go, well, I had $500,000 7.5 years ago, and I only have 400,000 now. What's up? Oh, it makes me sick because they miss out on so much money. And so they often say, well, why isn't mine performing? Isn't it the right company, even the right product that you talked about? And I'll go, oh, yeah, that's one of the products I was talking about. But who designed this thing for you? They had no clue what they were doing. Oh, my heavens, that was an expensive relationship to have your relative set it up for you if they didn't know what they were doing. So let's go into this. I teach professionals how to do this correctly. And in my book, you can learn about this. But when you set up an IUL policy, you want to take the least amount of insurance the IRS will let you get away with. And you want to put in the most money, the most premium the IRS allows as fast as they allow, so that your money will grow tax-free under Section 72E of the Internal Revenue Code. And then whenever you access money or take income out of it during retirement, let's say, under Section 7702, it will be income tax-free for the rest of your life. You want to be grandfathered that it's tax-free. And at the end of the day, when you die, anything that you leave behind in there, that cash value, will blossom and transfer tax-free under Section 101A of the Code. Now, I teach this to CPAs and tax attorneys with advanced continuing education because they don't even need to know this to get their LLM degree, a master's in taxation, and they sit there with their mouths open. But I always ask them, show me any other financial vehicle in the Internal Revenue Code that does that. And they have never come up with anything that does what I just described. Now, if you understand the background behind this, these laws or these sections of the code have been in the Internal Revenue Code in one form or another for 108 years. But when E.F. Hutton came out with this idea of using life insurance for living benefits and taking the least amount of insurance you could get away with and put in the most money, it got challenged a few times. The IRS went to them and took them to court. E.F. Hutton won. They knew what they were doing. But then the IRS went to Congress and said, we have to make sure that we do not violate the definition of insurance under tax-free here. If you violate these tax laws, it moves over to the taxable portion, investments that are normally volatile too, okay? And so in 1982, they passed the Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act. In 1984, the Deficit Reduction Act. And then in 1988, the Technical and Miscellaneous Revenue Act. These are acronyms, TEF for DEFRA and TAMRA. TEFRA and DEFRA dictates the minimum amount of insurance required based upon the person's age, gender, and their health in order to accommodate the amount of money you want to put in there. But it gives parity. It doesn't matter. Back in 1980, 81, I had a friend of the family that was 78 years old. He had 3 blocked arteries, adult onset diabetes, a prostate cancer episode, 6 sisters predeceased him, and 3 brothers. And when we sent in his insurance application, he was rated table D. Under TEFRA and DEFRA, I was able to squeeze down his death benefit so that he could earn 11 and net 10% rate of return on his insurance policy, just like a 22-year-old athletic marathon running female. Now, what I just said, you wouldn't believe how many insurance agents don't know how to do that. They would have sold a policy and it would have cost him an arm and a leg because they didn't understand how to squeeze down the death benefit so that he can earn 11 and net 10. He wanted to net 10% tax-free. He didn't care about the insurance. Does that make sense? TAMRA came along in 1988 to slow the flow. The bankers and the brokerage firms said, we can't compete, but we don't want to kill these because this is where banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety in insurance companies. They own these on people, okay? It's the owner who gets all the benefits. When you apply all of these, I've used the metaphor of a bucket for years. You design an IUL like a bucket or repository to accommodate the amount of money, the contributions you want to put into it. You don't have to put that much in, but you can't put in more than that. But to make it perform really well, it would behoove you to fill it up to the level that you designed. So let's say that's $500,000. You could take 20 years to do that, 30 years to do it, or you can take 5 years and fill it up with $500,000, okay? I'm going to use that as an example. If you comply, then this $500,000 can grow to millions, and it will be totally tax-free because we complied with TEFRA and DEFRA. TEFRA and DEFRA says if this is a male age 60, then the minimum amount of insurance is $1 million. Now, yeah, a 60-year-old could get way more in life insurance death benefit than that with $500,000. That's not the objective. We want to know the least amount. And so many times, insurance agents don't know how to do this, how to figure this out. And they don't know how to be able to fund it and fill up the policy in compliance with TAMRA. Because if you want to have tax-free income, you want to fill it up over the 5-year period. If you're over age 50 is basically what you do, about $100,000 a year. Technically speaking, you put $100,000 in the first day of the first year, first day of the second year, and after 4 years and 1 day, it's full of $500,000, and this turns into a tax-free cash cow. You could start taking income out of that, probably around $50,000 a year tax-free, or you can let it sit and grow. If you earn the average return like I have since 1980, even before indexed universal life, when universal life was first introduced, I've averaged 9.62%. Since indexing came out in 1997, I've averaged 11.17 using indexing and diversifying, like I'm going to show you here, and by rebalancing. So this 500,000 at 9.6 divided into the rule of 72, this will double in 7.5 years to $1 million. I've had many people, 500,000 doubles in 7.5 years to $1 million. Some, they just left it there and 2 million doubled to 2 million, 1 million doubled to 2, 2 doubled to 4, 4 million doubled to 8 million. That's 30 years down the road, their 500,000 has grown to $8 million. And we have a couple with that much that they could pull out $800,000 a year of tax-free income without depleting principal. They're only pulling out $300,000. That's all they need because it's totally tax-free. Now, here's another thing that a lot of agents don't understand. You use the level death benefit if you're going to fund it within a 5 or 10 year period, and that your objective is the best rate of return. You put in $500,000, and that qualifies as part of the death benefit. When you have 500 in there, the insurance company is only charging you for the remaining net amount at risk, which is 500,000. When this doubles to $1 million, now you're self-insured. That's like buy term, invest the difference on steroids. In 12.5 years, many of my clients, their cash value equaled and began to exceed the death benefit. If that doubles to $2 million, okay, then if they happen to die, the insurance company pays out 5% more under TEFRA and DEFRA. But they're only charging you for $100,000 because if you die, they're going to pay $2,100,000. 5% more than the cash. But they're only charging you on the spigot and on the bucket the actual cost of the insurance. If it's structured correctly, the insurance should get cheaper as you get older. You can't believe how many people don't realize that and how many agents don't understand how to do that. If you use the increasing death benefit, that's not going to happen, okay? And so that's just a little glimpse of how it should be structured correctly. And if you're wondering why it's not performing for you, it's usually because they put way more insurance than they needed. You haven't filled it up correctly yet. It wasn't designed. The spigot is not getting smaller. They use the increasing death benefit instead of the level death benefit, or they didn't switch when you finished funding. There's so many nuances here that you need to be aware of. Also, using indexing, you need to diversify. You don't just usually keep it in one. You might use a 40% of your assets. If you have $1 million of cash value, 40%, it can be 100,000. I'm just using $1 million as an example. 40% in a 1 year, 40% in a 2 year, and 20% in a 5 year. By diversifying, you tweak your rate of return to 11.3. People say, Doug, how do you earn 11? Well, this is the average on most 20-year periods if you're diversified. And when the market goes down, your agent should be calling you up and say, hey, let's switch 50% in a 2 year, 50% in a 5 year. If you've got 5 years or longer down the road before you're going to probably start taking tax-free income. Why? Because it boosts the average crediting rate up to about 14% based on actual history. You can't believe how many agents don't know how to do what I'm talking about here. And so when we show them statements like this, where we diversify this client's money into 5 different strategies, they get credited 14.89, 10 and a quarter, 1507, 8 and 13. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty doggone good. These are very common type IUL statements from people who have had their policy structured correctly. So if you want to make sure yours is designed correctly, I would recommend you get educated by reading this book. I'll gift you a copy here. I'm going to show you how to claim your free copy. If you go on Amazon, they're $20 plus the shipping and handling. And if you do that, thank you. But I'll gift you a copy. You just need to cover the shipping and handling, and I'll pay for the book. And if you study this, you'll know how to do it correctly. There will be questions in there you can ask an agent. And if they don't know the answers off the cuff, that should be a red flag to you. But this is about you. I don't want you to miss out on thousands. So you simply go to laserfund.com, laserfund.com, or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. And I'll pay for the book, and I'll cover the rest of the shipping and handling if that doesn't cover it. And I'll pay for the book and fire out a hard copy to you. Now, when you're in there, if you like to listen and learn and watch and learn, there's all kinds of options for that. You can also register for a free educational webinar that we hold on a regular basis. We also have the opportunity for you to fill in your name in an appointment slot to talk to an IUL professional who I oversee, that I know does it right, okay? And so this is about you and making sure that your IUL performs properly and it's structured correctly so that you don't miss out on thousands of dollars.